All right, lovely. So let's get started. So you can come and lay down on your mat and gather your props around. I'm not quite sure yet what we'll be using. We're going to be nice and stretchy today. So maybe just have your blocks handy so that you can grab them if you need them. And you can take constructive rest pose, so laying on the ground with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. Totally fine if you are more comfortable in a different shape. If you want to get started seated or somewhere else, that's totally fine. And just see if you can kind of relax your legs, especially if you are laying in this shape with me. Just taking a nice deep breath in and out. You can do that a couple of times. Let your belly get really nice and soft. And I've got my hands on my belly right now. You could too, and just see if you can kind of feel what your breath is doing. Allowing yourself to drop down into your body, into your breath. And noticing the earth beneath you, the floor, the ground, and also the land, your relationship with that land. How you feel connected to your world, the weather, the moon, the trees, and the earth. How you feel supported by that ground right now. And noticing if there's anything that your body is wanting to communicate to you today, if there's anything, any intentions that you want to set for your practice, just taking a little bit of space for that here. And then let's take a nice deep breath here, exhaling out the mouth if you like. And then we can start to move a little bit. So you can begin to wash your knees from side to side like windshield wipers. And I've just got my arms open to the sides here as I'm doing that. This could be a faster, slower movement. You could turn your head away from your knees, just taking a nice stretch here. Eventually, when you're ready, drawing your knees into your chest, you can give yourself a little rock from side to side. You can take a knee in each hand and widen the knees apart and away from your face and then in together. So we're kind of doing two big circles with the hips, knees apart and away from your face and then together and coming back in. So it's just a nice gentle massage for the hips. You might feel the inner thighs a little bit, the groin, Reverse the direction of the circle, just taking this as far as feels comfortable for you. And the legs are relatively relaxed. So there's sort of this feeling that the hands are doing more of the work. And then we can extend the legs up to the sky. Arms can go up too, and we can take some nice little circles for the wrists and the ankles, spreading the fingers and the toes. I was making biscuits yesterday and my wrists are sore from all that pastry cutting. You can reverse the direction of the circle if you haven't. And then we'll give that a little bit of a shake. And then place the feet down on the mat just ahead of the hips. Okay, knees are pointing straight up to the sky. And you can have your hands resting on your, actually, let's all start with the hands on the belly. We'll actually take this little square shape. So middle fingers to the hip points, thumbs to the rib cage. And then you just want to kind of feel like those 4 points are drawing in together. So your pelvic floor is going to gently engage and the belly button is going to press back towards the heart. So we're gently engaging the core without changing anything about the spine. Inhale, and then as you next exhale, go ahead and slide your right leg towards straight. And then bring it back in. So let me rephrase that. As we inhale, the leg should go towards extending, and as we exhale, we want to bring the leg in. So I'm just switching to the other side here. So we're going right, left, right, left. Okay, so sorry, got off rhythm a little bit there. So we're inhaling to extend the leg and exhaling to draw the leg in. So we're just sliding the heel along the floor, trying to keep the 4 points that our fingers are touching just as still as we can. Okay, and just working into this little bit of rehabilitative functional core. So this is really good when we're working with sort of rehabbing the core muscles for whatever reason, including for stuff going on in the lower back. But this is also just such a nice exercise, I find, for so many of us, just to gently build that functional core. It's easier in this position to really gather the core in and up than in some others. So that being said, if you're pretty comfortable here and you want to just notch it up a little bit, you could interlace your fingers around behind the back of your head and lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. So that's just going to add your upper abdominals a little bit. It'll be a little bit more challenging to keep the belly button drawing in and up. But if you've lifted your head, you can look and see if your belly's popping forward or not. You really want to draw it back as best as you can. But then try to relax your head into your hands. You could even look up to the sky so that it's your abdominals doing the work and not your jaw or neck. Really nice. You guys are doing great. I love this nice, it's almost like lazy core. It's just pretty chill, but it's so good. Really, really functional stuff. Okay, and I'm just going to take one more each side. And I think that's all the core I want to do on my back today. Maybe we'll do a little bit more later, but I think we'll leave that for here. And when you've completed both sides, relax. So that might look like soles of the feet together, knees open wide. It might be knees together, feet wide. Just take a moment to rest. Okay, and then we'll take our banana from here. So this is kind of a nice one after doing a bit of core. So you're just gonna bend your knees again so that your feet are on the floor. And then you can lift your bum up and just slide it over towards the right half of your mat. Extend the legs and walk the straight legs over to the left. And you might hook your right heel over your left ankle. Okay, and then your arms can come up over your head and you're also gonna walk your upper body over to the left. And your arms could be open, or you could hold opposite elbows or hold your right wrist with your left hand. So you're making the shape of a banana. So it's a side bend. Okay, your right bum should still be on the floor. So we're not laying on the side, we're laying on our backs, but we're in a curve. And for some people, this sometimes is a bit funny in the lower back. If it's not feeling good for you in your lower back, you can wedge a low prop like this one. Just this low chip block underneath that right hip, so it's slightly elevated, but for most of us the hips will be down on the mat. And we're just gonna actually relax into this shape for a little while. So really breathing as deeply as you can into your right lung. See if you can feel your breath moving all the way down into the lower lobe of the right lung. And just a nice relaxed exhale. This is actually a yin pose, which means it's a pose that can be held passively for a while. Okay, we're not going to hold it too long. I'm aiming for about 10 breaths. But if you want to activate it a little bit, you could flex your right foot and just sort of work that leg towards straight. You'll feel a little bit more of a stretch along the outer part of the leg and side body. You don't have to do that, just if you want to feel a little bit more of an active stretch there. Or maybe you're just doing that for a breath or two and then relaxing again. Just noticing kind of how the stretch might feel different when you do that. So nice. Let's take one more nice deep breath here. And then we'll gently unhook the feet, walk them back through center, walk your upper body back through center. And you might want to just kind of relax for a moment and feel that the right side might feel kind of longer than the left. You could also hug your knees into your chest and rock from side to side just to kind of smooth out that imbalance a little bit before we go to the other side. And then when you're ready, we'll do that. So you can place your feet on the mat and just walk your hips a little bit over to the left half of your mat. Extend the legs and walk them over to the right. And then if it feels safe and good for you, you can hook your left heel over your right ankle. Arms can open or come up over your head, and you're just walking your upper body over to the right as well, keeping that left hip pinned down. Unless you have a little bit of discomfort in that lower back, you can just wedge a low prop underneath the left hip. That usually solves it. We're still mostly laying on the back, but we're just easing off on that lower back a little bit. And softening to the side, noticing how the two sides might immediately feel a little bit different from each other, which is normal. I'm tighter on this side for sure. And then some really nice deep conscious breaths into the bottom of the left lung. And most of the time when we're breathing, we're not using our full lung capacity. We're usually using, I'm not sure exactly how much it is, maybe 10% of our lungs or something like that. And so sometimes the lower lobes get a little neglected. And if you do have a cold or something like that, the lungs can get a little stuffed up. And breathing deeply in a side bend can actually be so beneficial for the lungs. It's like a stretch for the lungs. So feel free to lean into that if that's feeling good. You might also explore a little bit more actively flexing the left foot and working that leg towards straight and just noticing how that feels. You can keep that nice deep breath going. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll gently unhook, walk back through center. And again, take a moment to feel that. So whether that's letting the legs extend out and just kind of being in a little shavasana type shape, or hugging your knees in towards your chest and rocking a little from side to side, just feeling that. Okay, and let's do a little bit of strengthening for those outer hips, which is really beneficial for the lower back and pelvis. So you can go ahead and roll over onto one side. I'm on my left side here. Let's just do a little bit today, nothing too crazy. So the bottom knee is bent, a little bit of a natural curve in the lower back, core is very gently engaged. And then we can take that top leg, point the toes, and extend it towards the bottom of the mat, and then we'll just circle. Yeah, so we're just taking a nice medium-sized circle here. We're not going to full capacity or anything. I just want you to get that feeling that the outer hip muscles are just activating a little bit. They're working a little bit. And then we'll reverse the direction of the circle. Just keeping the pelvis pretty steady, so it's just the leg itself that's working. Beautiful, nice, you guys. And then let's gently release that. You can take your soft fist and gently pad out the outer hip. And then we'll come onto our bellies. So we'll do like a little slow roll here. So you can come right down to your belly. And you can just rest your forehead on your stacked palms, point the toes behind you. Engage the core, gently press the pubic bone down and engage the legs. And then we're going to engage the glute and use the glute to lift up the right leg and then relax the leg down. Engage the left glute and use the glute to lift up the left leg and then come down. Okay, so we're just going to initiate the movement right side with the glute and then lower down. So the reason I'm saying that is sometimes when we lift and lower the leg without doing that, the glute can have a funny way of firing. Sometimes it doesn't totally fire, the hamstring does more or the lower back muscles do more. And I just want to really isolate those glute muscles a little bit here. So we're just going side to side and we're kind of relaxing in between if you can. So there's engaging the glute, lifting, relaxing the leg and the bum. Right glute engages and lifts, relax the leg, and the right glute relaxes. So keep in mind, this is a little bit of brain yoga, okay? Sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get the neurons to kind of fire here. So just be gentle with yourself around that. Do the best you can. Sometimes one side fires a bit more easily than the other. My right side usually does a bit easier. And just last round here. So I'm on my left side. And then relax your bum, relax your legs. You can give your hips a little wobble from side to side. And then we'll roll to our second side. So I'm rolling over to my right side now. Bending that bottom knee a little bit, engaging the core, floating the top leg, pointing the toes down towards the bottom of the mat. My top hand, left hand is just gently supporting in front of me. And we're going to take those medium-sized circles. So trying to keep everything in your body nice and steady, except for that leg that's moving. And we're just trying to get that full circle. And then we'll reverse directions. So you don't have to necessarily match the movement with the breath here, but do try to keep breathing relatively deeply if you can. And relax, and then we'll pad out the outer hip. And I promise there's more hip opening to come today, don't worry. And then we're going to come back to the belly. And if being on the belly isn't working for you, you could also come to your hands and your knees. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit more work here just with the whole back line. So let's actually do classic cobra. So or one of the classic cobras. So take your hands beside your ribs. So that's below the level of your shoulders. So your elbows are kind of pointing up towards the sky. And then roll your shoulders onto your back. Engage the lower body, including your glutes. and gently lift the chest up. So you're not going to go that high because you can't really use too much of your arm strength here. And then we're just going to lower down. So we'll just take a couple of those. Again, thinking of initiating the movement from your shoulders. So they kind of roll back and they lift the chest. And then coming down, rolling the shoulders back, lifting, pulling the shoulders down the back, and lower. And then one more time, let's come up and stay. So just rising with the muscles of your back, and think of really trying to kiss the shoulder blades around behind you. If you're feeling quite comfortable here, you might use your glutes to just float your legs up off the mat a little bit, and you're going to feel your whole back line activating. And relax. Come on down, take a nice deep breath. And then let's come into child's pose. So you can press into those hands to come through hands and knees. And then bring your hips back to your heels. Take your knees as wide as you like them here. So after doing that work in the back, it might feel nice to try having the knees a little closer together because that's just going to stretch your back a bit more. For some people, that doesn't feel good in the back or the knees, so go ahead and widen as much as you need to. For most people, the wider the knees are, the more comfortable this shape is. So just work with, what's happening in your body, what makes sense for your body. You could also have the arms out in front of you, or you could try having them down beside the hips and letting the shoulders just kind of drop, which is sometimes called embryo pose, a nice soothing pose. Take a nice deep breath into your back wherever you are. Okay, and then let's add a little bit of a side bend here. So you're welcome to stay if this is just like where you want to be. That's perfect. Okay. Otherwise, you can reach your arms forward, come up onto fingertips, and I like my knees just about shoulders distance apart for this. You'll walk your hands over to the right half of your mat or even past. Walk those left fingertips forward as far as you can. Draw the left hip back. You can stay up on your fingertips of your left hand. That's one way of doing this. You can also plant the palm and ground it down with your right palm. Your head could be lifted or relaxed. And we're just breathing into the left side of the body. Good, and then we'll rise up through center and we'll just go over to the other side. So right fingertips are reaching out to the right hip is drawing back. Up on fingertips is one option. You could also plant the palm and place the left hand down on it. Just see what works for you. Breathing into the back of the right side now. And then when you're ready, coming back through center, just take a moment to stretch out in your child's pose in the middle. And then let's come to our hands and our knees when we're ready. So having been in child's pose for a minute there, you can extend one leg back at a time, just tucking the toes under and sort of pulsing into the heel a little bit so you get a little bit of a calf stretch there. And then you can do that on the second side. And then when you're ready, you can place both knees down and we can take a little bit of a cat and cow here. So inhaling into a little bit of back bend. And exhaling to curl the spine under. His fingers nice and spread, or you could be on fists if your wrists are not crazy about this. And it can be really nice to close your eyes with cat and cow. And just kind of feel out what you need. So inhaling into the back bend and exhaling to round is perfect. You could also move side to side or make circles, just kind of explore what needs a little bit of space in your body today along your spine. Yeah, let's take a couple more breaths here. If you've been circling in one direction, just make sure you go the other way too. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, let's try Anahatasana, heart melting pose. So I like to do this with my toes tucked under. And I actually widen my knees just a little bit wider than I normally would for hands and knees. And then I'm dragging my bum just behind my knees, coming up onto fingertips. And then there's this sort of tractioning feeling. So I'm melting my heart back towards my thighs. My wrists are lifted and the weight is really more in my legs. My fingertips are just helping me to traction so I can lengthen the spine. Chin or forehead could come down, and it might feel really good to rock your chest just a little bit from side to side. Let's get that nice opening into the armpits, the upper back, the chest, even the throat a little bit maybe. Lovely. Okay, and then we'll come back out of that. So I'm just going to plant my palms, come back through hands and knees, and then we're going to have a seat. So coming up onto sitting on your bum. And you might want to have a little prop handy. And actually, we're not going to sit on it quite yet. We will. But I actually find this part is nice, just sitting right down on the ground. So I'm just sitting cross-legged. You could sit with your soles of your feet together, or you could take this shape as well with your feet out. But cross-legged I find works best for me. So we're going to come back to that cat and cow shape, but doing it here. So holding on to the knees, we're just going to inhale, pull the chest forward. Exhale, sling back, let your chin come down to your chest and really rocking back onto your tailbone. And then just moving like that. So we're just moving the spine in that same cat and cow orientation, but in a little bit of a different place in the body, and noticing how that feels. And you could certainly take this into a circle, letting the ribs roam around. And just see what your head and neck want to do. So you can kind of keep them level with the ground as you're circling, or you could let the head roll around too, which might feel nice for the neck. And we're going to do more for the neck in a moment, so it won't be your only opportunity. And again, it can be so nice to close the eyes because you're just not thinking about what you look like. That doesn't matter, right? We're kind of drawing, when we close the eyes, we draw the attention inward rather than outward. Beautiful, you guys. A few more breaths here. Lovely. Okay, and then when you're ready, just kind of slowing down back to center. And now you may want to sit on that low block if you have one. And you may want to try your other ankle in front for your seat, just so that you're in a little bit of an unfamiliar cross. Okay, hands to the thighs again. Let's start here. Roll the shoulders up to your ears, back and down. 2 more times, so come forward, roll them up, back and down. And again. And let's go the other way, rolling the shoulders up, forward and down. I've got lots of crunchy bits in my shoulders. I don't know about you guys. And then when you're ready, we'll settle the shoulders onto the back. And let's try this one holding the elbows around behind the back. It just helps to kind of keep the shoulders back in a nice passive way. So keep the chest lifted. We'll drop the chin to the chest. And then gently roll the ear over to one shoulder. So your head is kind of relaxed to one side. Maybe leaning back a little bit so that you can feel the front of the throat and the jaw get a little bit of a stretch. And then we'll gently roll the chin back down to the front and over to the other side. And again, you can experiment with leaning back just a little bit until you can kind of feel that stretch into the front of the throat and the jaw. Shouldn't be any pain in the neck here. And the shoulders are just nice and relaxed. They're just kind of heavy behind you. And then chin comes down, and we're just gonna lazily rock from side to side, just taking your time. You might experiment with letting your mouth be open so that you're really relaxing your jaw. And I'm just moving over to my left one last time. And then through center. Letting the head drop. You can give it a little shake. And then softly, slowly roll your head back up to neutral. And then relax your arms. Just notice how that feels. Beautiful. Okay. From here, take your fingertips out beside you and reach one arm up. This is my left arm. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm just walking the opposite hand a little bit of way, taking a nice seated side stretch here. So I'm drawing my belly in so that my back is kind of long, and I can hold the side of my head here as well, which will stretch my shoulder a bit more and allow my neck to actually stay relaxed. Okay, and then gently up through center, release the fingertips, and we'll just do that on the second side, reaching up the other arm, taking it over, and there's a bit of a drawing of the ribs back, lower back long, holding the side of the head if that feels right for you, turning the armpit kind of a bit up to the sky. Relax your head if you're holding it. Beautiful, and then gently releasing back through center. We'll do one more seated here. If you need to adjust your legs, feel free to, you don't have to. Okay, so I will mirror you here, I think. So we'll take the right hand across the thigh, left fingertips just a little bit behind you. Roll the shoulders onto the back, lift the heart, and gently spiral towards the back of the mat. Okay, hold on with your right hand very gently to your leg, wherever you're holding it, and think of trying to pull the leg or the knee gently up with your hand, which will draw your shoulder a little bit down your back, and then bring the left ear towards the left shoulder. So there's quite a juicy neck stretch you can explore here in the twist. Okay, bring your head back to neutral, gently unwind back to the front. Take your opposite hand across, so left hand now, right fingertips are behind you. Draw the shoulders onto the back, and the action of pulling up on the leg with the left hand may help to draw your shoulder blade down your back. So your heart is lifted, you've got a little bit of an inward curve in your lower back, and then you might bring your right ear gently towards your right shoulder, just relaxing down a little bit. And as we're getting that shoulder drawing down, for me, this is just delightful. I really like this stretch. And you could explore tilting the chin just a bit away from the chest. And there's this whole kind of ear jaw situation where I always have more tension than I think I do. Beautiful. And then head back to center, unwind yourself, hands onto your knees, and let's just take a couple more of those shoulder rolls and just noticing how they feel. For me, they are still crunchy, but they do feel a little bit more open. And we can reverse the direction of the roll when you're ready as well. Lovely, you guys. And then relaxing the shoulders when you're ready. We can release the legs if you haven't, and we'll just give them a nice little shake. Good. Okay, so from here, let's come back to our hands and our knees. And then we can experiment with a downward dog. We won't be here too long. This is more of a transition. So for downward dog, fingers spread. I like my first finger pointing straight forward. So that's a very slight external rotation of the hand, which helps my shoulder to roll back a little bit. And my pinky fingers are just coming off the edges of my mat. You can tuck the toes, lift your bum. There's a little bit of a bend in the elbows, and we're kind of hugging them together. So that helps the neck to stay relaxed after all that work. And then we can move. So I'm just bending one knee at a time, letting my hips sort of sway from side to side. And then we'll walk the feet to the hands, coming into a standing forward bend. So feet are about hips distance apart. And I also like to have the inner arches of the feet parallel. So the first toe, the big toe, is pointing straight forward. So for me, that's parallel. See how that feels for you. Softening the knees or bending them generously. You could rest your elbows on your bent knees, or you could hang down, holding opposite elbows. Lately, I like just having my fingertips on the ground, and really working on letting my head relax. And again, you can move here if you want to. So you can bend one knee at a time, sway, nod your head, or you could be totally still if that's what you're feeling is right for you today. And then let's curl up slow as you want to go. So If curling up doesn't work for you, bend your knees, look forward and rise that way. Otherwise, lean back into your heels, gather in your belly, and let your upper body be like a rag doll as you slowly roll up to standing one vertebrae at a time. And take your time. Some people really find this feels quite pleasurable, so enjoy that if you do like it. And when you get to standing, just roll those shoulders back. And lately I've been playing a little bit with my posture. I have a tendency to kind of lean forward a bit. And if I just soften my knees, let my weight come back into my heels and just kind of hang back a little bit, it's a very different like mood for me. I feel like it slows me down a little bit. It feels kind of nice. So just something to explore for yourself. What does it feel like if you let the weight of your hips move really over your heels? Yeah, that's it, Tessa. Yeah. This is maybe just a bit of a different mood. Okay, and let's move a little bit with our breaths. We'll just take a couple of half sun salutations. So you can inhale, reaching your arms up to the sky. And as you exhale, bend your knees, hinge forward from your hips and fold. Take a halfway lift, lengthen your heart forward. And as you exhale, melt over your legs. And then bend your knees, look forward and rise all the way up to standing, reaching your arms up to the sky. And then bring your hands together in front of your heart as you exhale. Inhale, reach your arms up, just following your own breath, so letting your lungs kind of lift you. And then bend the knees and hinging forward from your hips to fold. Halfway lift, lengthening forward. So this is almost a back bend here. So you can have your knees quite bent. And then exhale and fold. Then bend the knees, look forward and lead kind of from your chest to rise up to standing. Nice, and then hands to heart. Let's just do one more. I find this is like a smoothing the energy, rising up as you inhale, diving, lengthen, and fold. Bend the knees, rise all the way up. And then hands come together at the heart. Take a nice deep breath right here. Notice if you're leaning forward like I do, and see if you can just let the weight of your hips drop back over your heels. Notice how that changes how you feel. Good. Okay, let's reach the arms up again. Exhale, dive down towards the earth. Lengthen halfway. And then step your right foot behind you and lower your knee down. You might want to pad it. We'll just be here for a few breaths. And if having your knee down just doesn't work for you, of course, you can do a high lunge here. That's fine. I just find that if the knee is down, you can get a little bit of a juicier stretch. So got my back toes tucked under. We're squaring the hips forward. The tailbone is drawing down. And there's just a little bit of bringing the hips forward. So ideally, you're feeling a stretch right here at the front of the thigh. Reach the arms up. Okay, square the ribs forward, lift the chest lightly, but keep the back long. So we're kind of drawing the belly in a little bit. And then allow your hands to come around behind you. And you can hook the thumbs. You can try interlacing the fingers, or if you have a strap nearby and you know that you prefer that, you can hold your strap and have your palms facing forward. Okay, and then hug the elbows together, pull the hands apart and let your chest begin to open. So try to keep your tailbone heavy and your right glute engaged, even as you're allowing your chest to open to the sky a little bit. So those are opposing actions, okay, which is partly where we get the stretch. So just try to keep your brain doing both things at the same time if you can. And breathe. Lots to think about. Good. Inhale, and then gently just release your hands, straighten your front leg and fold. You can have blocks here or just be on fingertips, or whatever works for you is fine. Keep as much of a bend in the knee as you need in your front leg. Flex the foot, draw your tailbone back, heart forward and melt. Okay, and then just do that a couple times. So on the inhale, it's the feeling of a back bend, and where the back bend is happening is you really want to draw that left bum back behind you, and that's where you get the hamstring lengthening. And that folding is just what works for you. Good. And then let's stay here. So you may be kind of upright, especially if your lower back is a bit sensitive. You get a really great hamstring stretch up here, just focusing on tilting the tailbone back. You can be folded too, if that's more comfortable for you, that's fine. And then just see if you can draw your left hip like a centimeter further back behind you. Just get that really nice stretch into the outer hamstrings. So good. And then gently come out, bend your front leg, pick up the back knee if it's down, and gently step forward. We'll take a halfway lift, and then we'll switch. So the left foot will come back, and you can put your block under it if you have one. A little trick if you have a harder block is to actually put it on the shin bone so the kneecap is off the block. That's magic for some people's knees. Okay. Back toes tucked, because when we push into the toes, it can help to engage the left glute. Okay, squaring the hips forward, drawing tailbone down. Ooh, my left side is tight today, my goodness. Okay, you can reach the arms up. And there's a little bit, again, there's a lot of opposing actions here, right? So even as the hips are pressing down and forward, think about kind of scissoring the inner thighs together. So we're squaring the hips forward, and there's a really lovely stretch that you can get right there. And then we can add the arms. So you can take the hands around behind you, holding your strap or interlacing your fingers. And try to keep that hugging of the inner thighs, the lengthening of the tailbone down, pressing the hips forward, and also now opening the chest. So I know it's a lot to think about. Just do the parts you can. Should feel good. That's the name of this class. If it doesn't feel good, maybe try something else. Back off a little. Maybe tilting your chin a bit up to the sky if you can find that bit of an opening in the throat. So nice. And then we'll gently release that. Bring the hands down to either side of the front foot or onto the blocks, or if you just have one block, it could be under your left hand. Flexing the foot, generous bend into the knee is fine here. And then inhale, lengthening forward. And exhale, you might fold a bit. Okay, so inhale, it's a halfway lift essentially. And it's almost like you're trying to do a back bend, obviously not a big one, but you're trying to draw the tailbone back. So you're not so rounded in your lower back, but lengthening that hamstring. Nice, you guys. And then stay. So either in this kind of lifted shape where we've got that nice long back, or if it feels good for you to be a little more folded, that's fine too. And then just see if you can draw your right hip back even a centimeter, 2 centimeters, just drawing back a little bit, and see how that changes your experience of the shape. And keep flipping the tailbone back as best as you can. So good. And then let's ease off, bend into that front leg, pick up the back knee, and gently step forward. Lengthen your heart forward and melt. Good. Okay, so from here, I'd like to move into a pigeon shape. So if you have a bolster or a long cushion, you could put it behind you and have a seat on it. If you don't have anything, just sit right down. So kind of where you want to be. So I've got the bolster here close to the front of my mat, and I've got the short edge of my mat just nice and close here. And then I'm going to lean over onto my left hip and swing the right leg around behind me. So ideally, I'm going to get the left shin down on the floor in front of the prop. And I can keep the back leg bent with my weight sort of on the left hip, with or without a prop. This is kind of called 90, this pose is called 90-90 pose, and you can do this as a hip opener, or try and straighten your back leg. So this is pigeon, where you straighten the back leg. And I'm just kind of wobbling on the bolster so that I feel supported, but I'm in the stretch. Okay, so my knee is down. I like using the blocks. You can put your hands on them. Draw the tailbone down, lengthen the heart forward and up, and press into the top of that back foot as if you were trying to lift up the kneecap, and you'll feel similar to the lunge, that stretch in the front of the thigh and maybe even up into the psoas, especially if you draw the backs of your ribs up a little bit, which might be kind of a weird cue to think about. But the backs of your ribs are where the psoas lives. And you don't have to worry about it if you don't know what a psoas is, but it's a deep hip flexor and it can get a little bit of release here, which is nice. Awesome. And you can stay there as long as you'd like. When you're ready, we'll come into the sleeping version of the pigeon. So I like to put a block under my chest and under my forehead if I have both blocks in my hands. I don't always feel like doing that. You can also just use your elbows or your hands to support you. But I find having the prop under my chest and forehead, it just means my shoulders don't have to hold me up, so I can kind of soften into the pose a bit more. And if you have the all of these props here, softening is great. If you don't have any props, you might need to use a little bit more of your musculature to kind of hold yourself up. Yeah, so this should be painless in the knees, and you should feel a nice stretch in your hip, outer hip, glute. Some of you might feel it a bit more in the inner thigh. That's all great. And just nice deep breaths into the hip opener. Pigeon is really one of those that most people hate pigeon when they first try it. And they come to love it because it's like sometimes people call the hips the basement of the body. It's sort of where we stuff all of our stuff, all of our energetic things we don't want to deal with. And it can be uncomfortable to open in this area, but it's so beneficial. It really opens up some space for us physically and energetically. So wherever you're at with pigeon today, just be there. It's perfect. Breathe as deeply as you can. Soften if you can. Awesome. Let's take one more breath. And if you'd like to exhale out your mouth or even make a sound, feel free to do that. And then you can rise up to your seat when you're ready. Lean over onto that left hip, bring the back leg around to the front. And I usually like the windshield wipers after that. Just moving the hip around in its socket a bit. You can also extend your legs and give them a little shake. And then let's come to the second side when you're ready. So leaning over onto that left hip, right leg comes around to the back. And for some people, it's more functional to stay here in this shape with the back knee bent. That's perfect. As long as you're getting a hip opening without knee pain, you're good, okay? Ideally, your entire front shin is on the mat, so you might need to shift forward a little bit. You shift back a little, it might be a bit more intense. And we can take this little psoas release first. If you're in pigeon with the back leg straight, point the toes, draw your tailbone down, press that ankle into the mat so that your kneecap lifts slightly. Draw the heart forward and up, but keep pulling up on the backs of the ribs, if that makes sense. And then gently making your way down when you're ready into the sleeping form of pigeon. And you can support yourself with your elbows on blocks, or maybe you want to take a prop under your chest and under your forehead. So everyone is different, every day is different in terms of the specifics of the shape that we're going into, but you just want to think about, okay, where is a stretch that is sustainable for me? So not the absolute edge of possible sensation, but just where I feel like, okay, I'm opening my hip, I can feel the stretch there, but I can breathe, I'm not stressed. And go ahead and do that. Breathe deeply into this basement of the body. If you notice an emotion there, a mood, just try to stay with it. Try to breathe into it. It's when we breathe into what's happening that it moves. When we hold our breath and try to avoid it, that's how it stays the same. And then we'll take a nice deep breath. Sigh if you like. And then gently begin to rise up out of your pigeon. Lean over onto that right hip, bring the back leg around to the front, and we can take the windshield wipers again. Okay, so we're gonna prepare for Shavasana. So if there's something in particular that you feel you need to close your practice, feel free to take that. I'm gonna offer something. So if you do have that long pillow or bolster, you might keep it underneath your knees and lay down so it's kind of oriented here like I have it. And then you can bring the knees in and we'll take a little happy baby just to reset after that pigeon. So the knees go wide, soles of the feet up to the sky, and just holding whatever's accessible for you. So ankles, feet, toes, whatever you like. And you can rock a little bit from side to side, so just resetting the hips after the pigeon. And then when that feels complete for you, you can extend your legs and give them a little shake. And let your legs go over your cushion or bolster if you have one there. Finding your Shavasana. So feel free to add your layers, your props, whatever you like. And sort of finding that most comfortable position, the place that you can be that requires as little effort as you can. And if that's not laying on the back, if it's laying on the side or even seated, just wherever you're most comfortable is perfect. And we'll just take a little bit of time here to receive the work of the practice, to rest, to enjoy. Take a moment to notice how you're feeling and to feel welcome to stay longer. Okay, we're just coming up on time, so I would take a longer Shavasana if we had time. So feel free to stay. Okay, if you do feel complete, if you feel ready to come out, we can start to bring some small movements into the toes and fingers. We rock the head, good stretch. And then draw your knees in towards you. And roll over to one side. And eventually rise up to a seat. You could have your hands together at your heart or over top or on your lap or just wherever feels right for you. And then gently bow your mind to your hands, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage that is with us in our yoga practice. Honoring and acknowledging the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing the practice with me.